Hello, everybody. Card Dreamer here, along with Dace and a special guest.
Autumn.
Short and to the point. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the discussion.
Thank you so much for being here.
But no, I hope you all are ready to bask in the glory of death once again with Blademaster's Forge, because today...
And hey, correction, I think this is Baldmaster's Forge. I think that was the new name.
Well, they will be when we're done carving everything out of these monsters.
Yeah.
The Baldmaster is a whole different thing, and that's not appropriate for this channel. But yeah, oh man, this is like a very special discussion for us. This is our first one for Blademaster's Forge, at all, and it's about Monster Hunter Rise coming.
Yeah, a Switch exclusive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that there's another thing too, the fact that it's not just a ported game. We are finally getting a brand new game on the Switch. And that's something I'm so pumped about, because I remember you and I talking way back when I first got into Gen Alt just about how, like, man, if Gen Alt was not a port, like, we would have had visuals that were like through the roof compared to what Gen Alt looks like. So like the fact that now I can finally see like a Monster Hunter on Switch, like that is just going to be mind blowing to me anyway.
Oh man, no, I totally agree. And actually, I think visuals is probably good. We can just jump right into the visuals from what we saw in the trailer. So before I give my Autumn, what was your impressions when you first saw it?
Oh man, well, first off, the second I saw the release trailer, it was like this dog running, and then your character or a character getting on top of the dog, and I was just like, if we get to ride dogs in this game, like that's gonna be the best. And then it's like you're climbing mountains and scaling them with like this electric hook shot thing, and it's like, yeah, and then I was like even more sold. So in the first like 10, 20, 30 seconds, I'm already sold on this game because I love open world. Open world is one of my favorite types of games. So to see that in a Monster Hunter, I love being able to just immerse myself into a world. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dace?
It was the same thing. Like, I was on Twitter and saw one of my buddies mention MH Rise, and I was just like, wait, Monster Hunter Rise? Like, what the hell is that? And then I was like, wait, did they like literally just announce something, like a new game? And so I scrambled, went on YouTube, saw the trailer, and was just like, you've got to be joking me. Like, Breath of the Wild, but not like as cartoony in terms of like visuals. Like, it looks so good. And it was the same thing, like this guy like doing backflips over mountains and all this like nonsense and just like all these crazy things. And so like, how like will this actually play? Like, I'm so used to Generations Ultimate where you are either in like the hub or you're in the village and then you just go into a zone. It's like there's no open world aspect whatsoever. Like, you're just going from one little pocket to another little pocket. So for me, the whole exploration portion of Rise is something that has me just so beyond stoked.
And what happened actually was I was in the other room and all I hear is, oh my God. And I was just like, what? Like, what? And he comes over and he's like, just come here when you're ready. And then I come over and he puts on the trailer and we're sitting there watching it together for the first time. And I was like, no way. Like, as if.
Like, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, the Switch is getting like just a fresh Monster Hunter experience. Like, wow.
What about you, CD? What is your first impression? Because I sent it to you, actually. I let you know what there was.
Yeah, I was so busy with work. Like, I knew there was a Nintendo Direct sometime that morning, but I don't ever really watch those.
I never do either.
I've never watched Direct.
And I knew there was a PlayStation 5 announcement or whenever. I'm so busy with work, I don't have time to pay attention to the announcements. So when you send that to me, I'm like, I was so ready to automatically just tell everybody in the store, employee, customer, just like, leave me alone for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, we are closed, power's cut off, nothing, like time is stopped right here in this bubble. But Oh man, no. So before I give my thing, I think I really enjoy both of your point of views because you guys I think are more a pure point of view when it comes to the Switch because you don't have the experience of the other Monster Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of experience with a variety of Monster Hunters, but I'm coming off Monster Hunter World and Gen Ult, so I have both to at least compare it to.
Yeah.
So when I saw the trailer, I absolutely loved it. The visuals are hugely greater than the Gen Ult version because obviously, like you said, it's not a port. This is built from the ground up. That being said, it's certainly not Monster Hunter World, but it's more that Capcom knows the limitations with the Switch.
Yeah.
And they're playing to it, and that's what I like about it. That's not a negative in this sense, and with this discussion, that's provided that they don't push it too hard and there's no frame rate issues, so to speak. Like this is going to be epic. So like the first thing, after I've seen the overall trailer, getting to see the gameplay, the visuals, visually the first thing you get is a more traditional Gen Ult vibe, like Gen Ult Monster Hunter Tri. Like you get a traditional feel, the color palette that they use, the style of the art, not that it's like a bad low res, but I mean just the stylization and the color palette they choose is a bright, vibrant, very reminiscent of those games, especially Generations Ultimate.
Yeah.
The gameplay is very much World.
That's good though.
That's what I expected.
Even, it's like World on kind of like on crack. Like well, because the gameplay looks even quicker than World, and that's insane because World is way quicker than any previous game Monster Hunter has come before. So for them to up the ante even more is just mind blowing, and the combat is looks like it's going to be free flowing, just like World, but more so because of certain mechanics. We get into mechanics later a little bit, but visually it is like I think it looks really good. I think they did a perfect balance. Like this is going to be the game that's going to unite the two player bases. The ones who are kind of the World enthusiasts when it comes to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and those who've only got the Switch and their familiarity with Gen Ult. This is going to be the game that's going to bridge the two.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah.
And the reason I say it doesn't look like Monster Hunter World is because out of all of them, World goes for the realistic approach, look-wise. The locations look as real world as they could possibly do. The monsters look real. I mean, we know they're not real monsters, but the skins and everything looks realistic. This does not look realistic. It just looks really good.
Yeah,
that makes it looks more like a very clean 3D anime.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the best way I know how to describe it. But I love what they're trying to do. I'm really stoked to visually see what they can do because this is going to be like, I don't know if there's going to be anything to compare it to on the Switch when this hits. Because Monster Hunter World is one of the most beautiful games that I still play of everything I've seen, and so I'm super stoked by just the visuals alone.
Yeah. That is such a huge thing, and I think with my limited experience with just Gen Ult, and just the sheer amount of, and I'm sure it's the same with other Monster Hunter games too, just like the sheer amount of gear and options available, I'm really trusting that they have just gone all out.
Above and beyond for...
and that they haven't been like, okay, we're doing something more visually advanced, of course, but we're going to like keep other things lower, or maybe we're just going to keep the game more story based. I'm really trusting that it's just as full blown as they can possibly make this.
So my suspicion will be they're going to treat this very much like World as far as execution for content.
Mm-hmm.
World had a good amount of content when it launched. It was nowhere near what Gen Alt was. But you have to also keep in mind Gen Alt was not only a port, but then they had time to add stuff.
Yeah.
And they added. Don't get me wrong, they added a crap ton. But so I think they're going to take the same approach here. Is that when you're going to have the base game that's going to keep you busy for a while. And then every so often they're going to update. They're going to have their live events. They're going to update it and introduce new monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they're going to do the exact same game plan. They'll do updates that introduce a monster here, monster there, a couple things here, some events, and then they'll have like a major purchase of an expansion that's almost equal cost of the game.
Yeah.
That'll like be just a whole nother game in its own. Combine them all, do a few more updates, and then they'll be on to the next one, just like they're doing now. So you're going to get Monster Hunter World's been out for a couple years at least. So I mean, this game is going to have I can easily see having the same longevity, if not more, because they're hitting certain markets that they couldn't hit with World. Like they're hitting the portable market now with this as well.
Oh, big time!
So I see them keeping the longevity. They're going to space it out. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. Like, you can't go in expecting the same massive content that Gen Alt did. That's just Gen Alt was a special case.
Yeah.
I think I prefer it that way, honestly. Like having it spaced out over time, so you can learn the game, this and that, and then as monsters come out, it's just like a new like Christmas Day again. Like, yes, another download, like DLC pack or whatever that is like coming to Rise, and as long as we get a crap ton, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care how long it takes, as long as there's more than just like 20 monsters, because that would be really sad if it was like 20 capped there, nothing more.
Yeah, compared to Gen Alt's 93.
Yeah, like I would prefer more monsters than more like gear or whatever, but yeah. I think. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, even World doesn't have 100 monsters. Like Gen Alt is like the epitome of like
case.
It really. I don't see them doing that much. Now, having said that, I think when Monster Hunter World did launch, it was maybe 20 some odd, but that was just launch when the base game, and then they've got. I'm pretty sure it's double that. I mean, I don't have it booted up, or I could easily count how many monsters are in the game, and even I haven't a couple years later haven't fought everything in the game, and I've got 560 hours in the game.
That's the thing is I was like, it doesn't need to be 96 monsters or something crazy like that, but as long as it's enough monsters with a lot of variety and types and styles where it can keep you busy for, like you said, years down the road when, you come away, you come back to the game, go away again, come back. You're still putting in a lot of hours and it's over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But you can experience a bunch, but not have it too little or too much.
Yeah, that reminds me actually, just on the topic of like the pacing that they might be going with or whatever, where it's like they release DLC. I had the idea the other day where it would be so cool if there were, like, you had to play to a certain point. And, well, okay, this is going to sound like, well, that's already how it works, but I'll get to the point after. But essentially, you've got to play to a certain point before you have access to certain things. So, like, let's say, like, obviously the games operate that way anyway, but I mean more so in a sense where, like, let's say they had, like, a weather system or something where winter starts showing up because we actually have seasons or something elaborate like that. And so that, like, okay, like, even though I'm in spring, I can't just blaze through all these quests until I get to the monster that I want.
Yeah.
Or there's just, like, migratory routes for certain monsters. So you have to be, like, learning the science and, like, just the habits of, like, all these, like, super intricate details just to, like, actually be able to go and encounter certain monsters. Maybe that's not nearly as, like, advanced as they're making it, but I think if they were to ever go that kind of route, that would just be so much more engaging and realistic and just much more epic.
So I don't know about the seasons, like as far as if they would do something like that. I know traditionally they do different locations that have different elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
and what's neat, like they might do something more expounded upon than what they're doing now in World. They have an area in World that they introduced with with Iceborne. That was called I think it was just called the Wastelands, or I forget what now. It's the hunting or the Guiding Lands. Sorry, it's called the Guiding Lands. And basically, you can go there, and there's a little bit of a mystery about it, where it's actually it'll look like there'll be some unique areas as far as the design of it. But let's say you'll get to a part that looks like literally mapped out like the ancient forest. But then there's some unique stuff in the forest theme, but it'll be unique. But then as you're going, it just seamlessly blends and goes right into the Junland Waste, which is a desert area. And then that can blend right into this coral area. That's another. All these are separate areas that you're used to visiting on the main map.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's this one area for some whatever reason. All the biomes are in a symmetry, so to speak, where you'll travel through each of the environs seamlessly.
Yeah.
And it's neat. And while you're doing that, the any monster that I'm as far as I'm aware, just about any of the monsters except the elaborate raid monsters or whatever can show up there. So elder dragons, regular monsters, they all can show up. But which ones can show up depend on. You can level up the different areas, so to speak. You have to track certain type of monsters first there, and as you track more and more, and you get the level up, then the higher ranking monsters, so to speak, will show up.
Yeah.
And it's really and I can see them doing something like that easily.
Yeah.
And expanding upon that. I don't know how you expand upon something like that, but just given how much they've upped the ante in the trailer, I can see them upping the ante somehow.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of what brought the idea to mind for me was just thinking about the weather system in like Breath of the Wild, for instance, and thinking like, yeah, what would Monster Hunter be able to do with that sort of thing? Or just so many other different elements thrown into the mix. And like, as much as I love games where you can just select the quest you want once you've unlocked that quest, there's something just so much more intriguing about the idea of like, okay, it's only going to be here for X amount of time, and if I don't do it at that point, then I'm waiting until next time. Like, to me, there's just something so realistic, and it would, like, for like months prior to a window like that, you would just be thinking like, oh man, I'm stoked for when that comes around again, because like I almost finished crafting this, but I was short items, so now like there's all this energy just building and excitement, and it would just be so cool.
Man. So you're like, yeah, oh man, you're so. I think you're onto something, because they have elements of those type of things in the game, and you're kind of like sparking ideas now with me.
Yeah.
So in World, they do have. It's not seasonal, but they do have a weather system in place.
Okay.
So when you open the map, every time you travel to a new location, you're speeding things up as far as time goes. So if you travel one location and then open up your map, there is literally a dawn to dusk thing. You can literally, if you're in an area, you can watch the sunrise and set. So you can go through the night, go through and up to the sunrise, and you can go through that. Now the weather is the only thing that doesn't change while you're there. The weather can be different every time you visit the place. Like the Hoarfrost Reach is a snow area. Sometimes it'll be a clear sunny, and it tells you on the map whether it's a clear sunny day, cloudy, or it'll say in parentheses unknown. So you just got to risk. Like sometimes it could be a blizzard going on. The ancient forest has a rain. Sometimes it could be clear sun. It could be misty, or it can be it can be raining. In the Junland Waste is the only one I know. I don't know if there's a weather element. I think they tried to keep it somewhat realistic, but but what they do now, it's more prominent in World than Genel. Genel has its endemic life, but it's completely almost irrelevant. Like you can walk by butterflies, other than the occasional kick-a-toad, which I have yet to, it's fun, but I have yet to understand why it's in the game. There's no point to the endemic life other than maybe catching it for an ingredient. But in World, you get research points for every endemic life you catch.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you can decorate and it's very large, you can decorate your home with these endemic life. You can tell them where in their home you want them, and they'll act, behave, whatever. So it's really fun to try to collect them all, almost like they're Pokemon. But certain ones are very rare and only show up under certain times of days and under certain weather conditions. Like there's one I still haven't caught him. He's a rare appearance in the Hoarfrost Reach, but it has to be a clear night.
Oh man.
So like they did something. They took those type of game mechanics that is just geared towards the endemic life and implied it to maybe a rare variant of a monster.
Yep, exactly, man.
Man, that would be epic.
And that's totally like what I'm into and what I'm talking about. Like even if it's not in this game, like someday they have to do this kind of stuff. Because like another thing too is like sometimes people are going to play a huge concentration of Monster Hunter and then they're going to come away for a while. What I love with spacing out like DLC and like all that kind of stuff is like you can get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm strong enough and I'm coming away from it to play other games. But then when that new thing drops, it's like, oh man, like I want to see how good I can do against this. And it's the same with just like if they had timed like seasonal or weather related whatever's, where it's like, okay, yeah, like I enjoyed time away, but now I'm remembering that I want to finish crafting this thing, so now it's the time to do it. So someday, like I would love to see that kind of stuff put into motion.
Are you thinking like real world time?
Not
or like Stardew Valley?
It wouldn't have to be real world time, but in some ways it would be cool if it was close enough, because that way, like, yeah, you're legitimately waiting until a specific time of year. But at the same time, that's like a lot of time for it. So
definitely.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how they juggle that if they were going to start experimenting a little more with those types of ideas.
That would be interesting. I'm also curious. I don't know I can't remember if Gentle has crowns for the size of a monster you capture or fight. I don't think it does, but I could be wrong. But in World, you can encounter a monster. You could be going after a monster, and you can actually rank your monster based on its size. There's actually a crown for smallest that goes either silver or gold crown, or you can have a silver or gold crown for largest.
Mm-hmm.
And you will visually see the difference on your screen. Like you're used to your average ones, and you have a record book like your Monster Hunter guide in game that logs all the creatures you've encountered, what the largest was you found, whether you how many times you captured it or killed it, and it's really cool. And you get more information on the monster, so it'd be really cool. I hope they implement this, because I really like that you can encounter these really. It's really awesome when you're used to fighting a particular monster, and let's say you're farming it for materials or whatever, and you go in and all of a sudden it's like 1.5 to 2 times the size that you're used to seeing. You're like, what the frick? And it adds a kind of an epicness, like edge to the battle, because I think I'm not sure because they don't show stats on screen, but I'd be willing to bet based on their size, they are a little more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gen Alt does that, right?
I'm pretty sure
it does, but I don't think you see the actual visual difference.
I think I've noticed it with my time playing. Like sometimes it just seems bigger, but it's.
I'd like something more clear, because to me they all just look the same. Like.
You notice it when it gets to at least in World, when you get to silver and gold, you notice the difference, just because you're like. This guy's a lot bigger than he should be. It's like you just feel it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that indicates it while you're in the game other than you just feel like that his head just seems a little bit like a bigger target than I remember, or he's going to eat me a little quicker. Or
yeah, whatever. Exactly.
and I love it. Like, and there's a couple of event quests, and that's another thing. Like, I like the way the event quests show it. They rotate certain variants of monster, or I should say variants, but variations on hunting the monsters. There's one like Jagras is one of the beginning monsters. It's like, if not the first monster you hunt in world after you get to the island. But they have one called, there's a master rank quest or high rank quest, I think, high rank, called the Greatest Jagras. And that thing is, it's like having like this, I mean, just this massive blend, something that should not be anywhere near that big. And this giant thing is coming at you, and he's tough, and it's a great way of putting a variation on a monster that you know normally is not a challenge to you. And making it something to have to be careful with again.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I love that idea, and I think had Gen Alt done something like that, that would have been amazing, because the Great Macau, for instance, like in no time after you start that game, you're like, okay, this thing can be taken out in 2 minutes, whatever. And it's never a threat after that point. But if they had something where it's like, wow, there's this huge version, or even another spin-off where, let's say, like, there are, and of course they do the deviants in Gen Alt, but if they had like deviants for Great Macau, like, or where you're going up against two like dark versions, or just something where they're super fierce compared to what you know, like, there's the potential
so
is huge.
You should be in, like, honestly, what is it, like, when you're developing a game and you want ideas for mechanics and visuals and
I work
whatever.
for Capcom, but like, I'm just not a part of Monster Hunter team yet.
Yeah. So that would be, you should definitely do that, because you always have such great ideas when talking about games. But yeah.
That would be so good. I think this will be where the execution, the method of their execution is going to greatly depend on the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier for them to do these live events on Xbox and PlayStation and computer, because it's permanently online at a way faster speed. And I mean, it can just, there's no arguing or debating. An online system for those things are way above and beyond anything Nintendo seems to ever want to do.
Yeah.
And which is why I think they go for you can download these, they have the download packs of these special quests, which are all well and good, but I like the fact that events are a seasonal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in World, they've been going on for quite a long time right now, but that's kind of in large part due to the state of the world right now with the pandemic. But normally it's like there's a winter season, there's a spring, the event's only around for maybe like a month or so. And you've only got that time to get any special event weapons from monsters or whatever. And if you don't get it, you got to wait till the next year or what have you. Like what's neat though is they kind of balance it, because let's say it's spring, you're logging in for the spring. They give out tickets. You have special tickets you have to reward. You can earn some when you log in, and you have to go then do event quests to earn the rest. But what's neat is that every event, or it seems most events, they'll bring back the old events so you can do the quests but you necessarily aren't going to be able to get all the tickets. So if you want the spring tickets, you're not going to be able to get them until next spring. You'll still be able to craft the special weapons or whatever that came from missions, because they're their own tickets, but you won't be able to get the ones that came from like the login bonus.
Yeah.
So I like.
Sorry, is this kind of like, you know how in like Fortnite they have seasons and stuff that you like subscribe for? Is it like that kind of stuff or no?
Oh, no, if it was, I would no.
I was going to say, I hate stuff like that.
No.
Yeah.
This is more like Destiny.
What's that?
Exactly. I knew that was coming. I waited. No, these are completely free. It's just when winter comes, because they can't politically go, here's a Christmas season. We're going to do a Christmas themed event. They're going to go, here's a winter season, and they'll give it a special in-game name. And just while you're, during this time while you're playing, these things are up there, and you just go have at it. There's no cost or anything. It's just time.
For that, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think they do it really, really well. So I have to ask, what you now we talked about the visuals, and now we got into fun execution ideas. So the next progression is, what did you guys think of the gameplay that you were seeing in the trailer?
Man, the gameplay was so much more to my style. Like, Dace and I are very, like, hack and slash, just get right up close to the monsters and stuff, and being able to see how quick the movements were compared to Gen Alt that you were mentioning before, or even like how it's faster than World, or so it looks. There just seems to be a lot more creativity with the combat style and what you're able to do, especially like with that hook thing flipping through the air. Like, you can't do that in Gen Alt, and I've still never mounted a monster in my life, and that's because it just doesn't happen unless you're precise and all this other stuff. But I really liked how fluid and complex it looked, and just a lot fresher to me than Gen Alt. And I found Gen Alt is very, oh my god, clunky, and like when you would drink potions and you're sitting there like showing off your muscles, and then like you're getting hit by a monster again because you were in the middle of drinking something and showing off, and like it's just, to me, clunky and annoying, especially when I'm the type where it's like, okay, like, get up, let's go, like, we have to get stuff done here. So to be able to do it at a faster speed and stuff. And I also hope that they take out those damn jesters, because I freaking hate them.
Jesters?
Like the ones after you drink a potion and they're like, oh, like I'm.
Yeah. Yeah, you thought, well, I did it first.
Yeah.
You were thinking the clown, yeah.
I was like, what?
Oh, not jester. Jesters.
No, gesture. I knew what you. Yeah, as soon as you started explaining, that they're not in World, even.
Which is good.
Yeah, because in World you can just like drink as you're running or like whatever.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing.
I'm trusting that they keep that, because like, I've never played World. I know nothing about it besides you can decorate your own room, which I would love in this Rise game, because I'm into that.
Man.
But
if they do that, if they keep it at the very least to where World has it as far as decorating goes, I will be so happy.
Yeah,
I love what you can do in World.
But yeah, that's my take on like the combat and stuff like that. Like, I'm excited.
I'm pretty sure the trailer shows him drinking a potion while he's running.
Okay, yeah, I don't recall. I would have to see it again, but
Yeah.
I probably will watch it again at some point, or watch it like 20 more times before it comes out.
Oh my god.
Because like Dace and I are totally into that. I've already watched it at least twice.
Yeah,
so
I've watched it a handful of times.
3 times, I think, actually. So I'm probably gonna watch it more.
What do you think of the game mechanics? Anything else stand out for you, Dace? Or
yeah, to be honest, like everything I saw was just amazing, because to me it looked like World in a sense, and so I was like, wow, like that's really cool. If like, as much as I love the way Gen Alt operates with, like, I get that it's clunky and things take time, but at the same time that makes it so that like you've got to demand of yourself that you're playing tight, and you've got to just be really smart, and if you're getting whacked around, that means you're just not playing as best you can. So I like that aspect, but because I've never played World and it has some of those more fluid implementations, I'm very excited at what I've seen in the trailer, because it looks like things are going to just be more smooth, faster, just more action-packed in a sense.
And the weapons too. I didn't mention that. When I saw the weapons in, like, I only ever use dual blades, but seeing those weapons in action was really cool, and something I might actually dip into more of.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So like, from a lot of the things I saw, like it The only thing, let me get the one thing out of the way that did bug me seeing it without knowing anything about it. And then I went back and watched, or I saw some video that was their reveal video, not just the trailer, which explained some of it, which now I'm okay with. The energy looking thing that he shoots.
Mm-hmm.
So in Monster Hunter World, they introduced with the Iceborne expansion a gadget called the Clutch Claw, which allowed you to latch onto things, which you can latch onto the monster or swing from things and so forth. But it wasn't like uber quick or anything like that, like that they showed in this trailer for Rise. And then when I saw Rise, I instantly thought, because I'm watching it on my phone, of course, so I can't see as much intricate detail, but I didn't see much detail-wise watching the trailer on the computer. It reminded me instantly of Samus's energy beam.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I didn't like that. Only because everything from Genol to World to anything else that I've seen, everything a hunter uses is organic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes from the world. It came from the monster. It's crafted, and it maintained like everything is built of this world, and that's what I like. So to see that, and it felt so out of place to see that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
It felt very, sci-fi as opposed to fantasy.
Yeah. So apparently, though, upon seeing the reveal, and you get a little slowdown sometimes, and you're able to see a little more detail. It is organic. It's just a new thing that they created for the game. Apparently, they are bugs that are in the air, and they create this elastic, like super powerful or strong silk that you can then use to swing from. That's unbreakable, which is all well and good, but that little bug should be able to hold you and your gear. But hey, that's I'll accept that, whatever, because there is kind of that in World too. So that, like, once you explain that there is a real world aspect to it and that they are bugs and there is the detail there, you just miss it in the trailer. I'm okay with it now.
Yeah, it's not just like a lightsaber whip or something.
Exactly. That's
Like
what
a
was
lightning
bugging me.
rod.
Like, I saw that part and I'm like, okay, height, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Aside from that, though, like, I love that they're taking these quality of life mechanics and changes that they made from World and are just totally amping it up in different directions. So there's what's called tail raiders that they introduced in World with Iceborne, which are the small monsters that you normally counter in the game that your Palico can eventually, you can earn the ability to talk to these creatures and befriend one of them. So it'll not only fight with you, you can ride it to get to the next location if the monster should move. They took that concept of just riding it, and while you're riding it, you can drink a potion, sharpen your weapon and all, and you don't have to worry about controlling your character, making a move or anything. So it was really, really nice that they introduced that. And then they took that and then completely blew that out of the water with what looks like to be the Palamute dog, the dog in this one. So I'm like super stoked that you just made this complete, like, you just changed the game with this dog.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to see that. The one thing I'm hearing that they're doing, I don't know, it kind of felt like it was implied with the trailer. So like the traditional Monster Hunters, you have regions within a map, an area. So you have like area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and every time you switch one within that map, you have to load in, load out, load in, load out. Yeah. World wasn't like that. World is once you went to an area, yes, you can open the map of the area and it's divided by numbers, but there was no loading between the different areas. It was one seamless, and I loved it. It felt open world, even though it wasn't region. Like, I still can't go from the ancient forest to the Hoarfrost Reach to the wastelands or whatever. I still got to travel between the different biomes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I get the impression from what I'm kind of hearing they might do is it's seamless, period.
Like Breath of the Wild?
Yeah. And I'm like, if they do that, that is mind-tripping to me. That is just
That's what I'm hoping.
I can't fathom like a Monster Hunter game where you're going up, down, left, and right, and there is almost no load time. The only time I can think of is if you're going to, and I don't even know if they'll do that, which they probably will. They'll probably make going to the village a load time. Your village is its own thing. But I kept thinking, man, what if they did this like Skyrim or Fallout where it's just fast travel located? Like everything is seen. Even the village is a part of this, so to speak. It's just they don't have monsters spawn in right there.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if it's all seamless and you can go right into the village, do what you got to do, go into your home, which definitely would be its own time. But short of that, like, there's just no loading. Like, it just blows my mind.
And that's honestly, I'm trusting that it's just like that, because again, like that would just create such a
whole other experience.
It would just add such a richness, because like in Gen Alt, it's like, okay, you load to go to this village, you load to go to that village, you load to go into a quest, you load to go back to this area, that area, like, but to just know that, like, okay, if I run for 30 minutes in this direction, I'm going to be like in the middle of this forest, and like just thinking about all the things that are happening around you or just like an hour away, it's just crazy. Like, it's nuts.
I totally agree. I want them to have that and the option to fast travel as well to certain locations and camps, just because if you're trying to collect endemic life or you're trying to hunt down a certain, like, that would be ridiculous if you literally have to walk for half an hour. But man, to be able to do it though, if you're on, say, an expedition as opposed to a quest, would be just, oh my gosh.
Or just for those, like, for instance, when I started Breath of the Wild, like just roaming around without any intention of doing anything other than exploring, like, just to do that and see what happens in this Monster Hunter game, like, that would be amazing. Like, I just want to see the sights, and maybe I'll run into something, maybe I won't. Like, to me, that is just so cool. Never knowing. Like, when you boot up a quest, you know exactly what you're going to find. If you boot up that quest right after, or 3 weeks from that point, you know exactly what you're going to find. It's the same program time and time again, but with this, there's no telling what is going to be what that time.
And something else I just thought of that I would like to see more of as well is in Gen Alt it only does it for some monsters, but the little short cutscenes or whatever when they're introducing a new one, I'd like to see that for new monsters in the game, or even the ones that are like you're used to seeing, for like people who are only coming into the game for the first time, but having a little cutscene for every monster as opposed to like just 5 of them.
Yeah, the special, like the
super special ones. Because I think it's just, and it's only when you encounter them the first time.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Obviously the second time you wouldn't want to do that again, but I think that would be really neat to just have one for every, and just have a little bit more of like a story to each one.
Yep, for sure.
I can agree with that. I can't remember if even World has one for every monster, but they have one for quite a few of them. And I do think they tend to keep it to, yes, they do it for each of the Elder Dragons, but I think they do it not necessarily, the monsters they choose to do it with aren't in and of themselves important. It's how they're impacting the story. So yeah, your first monster of all time, they give you that special introduction. That's your first monster. And I think once you get used to it, they don't quite do it as much.
Yeah.
But if it's supposed to be like a special threat or something, they do it. It just depends on how the story's playing it out. I have to.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look, because I know in World you can go back and look at all those cutscenes and rewatch them.
Well, that would be really nice. Yeah.
Pretty sure Gen Alt has that option somewhere too, but
I thought it did. But now, there was one thing that they showed in the game. I don't know if you picked up on it, but it was one thing that I know, Dace, you said you were so hoping for. That does come from World. That it is and it shows it in the game.
Oh, what?
Or in the trailer.
What might that be?
Turf Wars.
Oh, nice.
They actually have it in the trailer. They show 2 of the monsters fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were definitely talking about that at some
Yeah,
point.
because that's just another layer of like the realism, like the fact that in Gen Alt, like the two monsters will never like kill each other or fight each other, but
They
in
don't?
World, no, in
I think
World,
they can hurt each other if you kind of make them cross paths, but
yeah, like if
they won't
it's
directly hurt. Yeah, they won't
yeah, like
directly
they
fight.
won't, but in World, like just being able to, I remember one of your YouTube videos, just you sitting back when one of the dragons or something was like fighting something else, and just like, wow, like you can literally just stand and watch these two huge creatures going at it, and knowing that like you're benefiting because they're doing damage to each other. Like that is so cool to me.
Oh man, and they do. I'm thinking of trying to do that. Start paying attention to my hunts more, and every time a turf war happens, sit back and just record it
Yep.
and doing a compilation video of just some of the turf wars because I've seen some really epic ones like that was just so fun. And I think like one reasons I've done was it was a Glavenus and um what's crap, I can't forget its name. He's the one that has the big tail of fire. He'll like sharpen it in his teeth and then
That's Glavenus.
I'm sorry, Glavenus and Brachydios is the
Okay.
worst.
Yeah.
Like I've seen those two go and or and another one was Oda Garen and something like just it's bad enough like it's cool enough to just see them roar at each other and kind of just do a couple attacks, but when you get to see like when you know one is like more of a cat like and the other one's a big giant tyrannosaur, they'll actually the Oda Garen's more of like the feline type of build, and it'll actually climb on top and bite, and you'll actually see the other ones literally just slam it down, and it's so awesome. Like the fight in a realistic animal way, and not just kind of a tail whip. Like they really get into it and
Yeah.
like really abuse each other, and you'll see the damage numbers, and it's like ranging anywhere between 2,000, like 1,500 to over 2,000 damage because they're just beating the living tar out of each other.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It is so epic, and I'm so stoked to see them do that in this. My only coming off World, I don't see them being as realistic with it because they're going to keep with the Gen Alt vibe,
Mm-hmm.
which you could even notice in the Turf War here. There is a Gen Alt vibe, but they're definitely up in the ante, and I think it's because Nintendo just is known for being more family friendly as well.
Yeah.
So which is fine. But I'm stoked to see because these are monsters that haven't interacted before. Some of them aren't even in World. I think the two that they showed fighting aren't even in World. So I'm just super stoked to see like just how these new turf wars come out, and I'll be sitting back, be like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch the trailer tonight
Again,
and just
yeah.
because I think I was just in the mode of like just watching
new
and like not
game,
even
yeah.
registering everything that I was seeing, but that's amazing.
yeah, my only concern is going to be I am concerned with like the total the total amount of play area
Mm-hmm.
because they're so focused on promoting the verticality of the game because you can climb these hills and all, and it's which is all well and good. I love the fact you're like that tells me they definitely going to have to introduce a whole new breed and types of flying monsters
Oh, for sure.
or in climbing like Rajang needs a whole overhaul. I would love to see like this King Kong esque fight where he's climbing up mountainsides, leaping off and attacking you. Like they to be able to revisit even older monsters and give them a whole new battle set, and also keep them some familiar move sets as well. But oh, it's so epic. But I'm concerned they're going to so focus on the verticality because when they showed that map, that island was not big at all.
Yeah.
But it was huge in the mountain spikes, like huge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm afraid they may not balance it out the way it should be. I would love large areas of climbing. I want to see that all over the place, but not just mountains. I would love to see to be able to go on large tree tops or something, kind of like the Wookiees in Star Wars Episode 3, like things like that. And I want to see all types of environments, but make the land mass bigger, or
Yeah.
at least let me.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't show everything, and I hope there's other land masses we didn't get to see yet.
Yeah. I think.
I'm trusting there
Yeah.
is, definitely.
I just had another idea, which would be amazing. Like being able to get on a ship to sail to another island or another continent, and giant sea creature monsters attacking the ship while you're on your way, if you just happen to be in that area, or being able to sail to a spot where like it's like the rumors have been like, oh, it's in this area these days. Like I think stuff like that would just be phenomenal.
Underwater fights.
Yeah, that's another
Oh,
big.
Imagine that.
And Hakuro just gave this video a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm really curious about those. I can't wait to tackle them in Monster Hunter 3 now that I've got the Pro Controller. I can get to that, and I'm curious how that's going to be. Because I did go under. I didn't fight anything, but I did finally go underwater. And I didn't find, at least being underwater, difficult at all. I mean, there was no combat or anything. And granted, I didn't do much in the game. I lost to the first monster because it was just awkward playing on the default gamepad. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think they can pull off an underwater fight very well. They just obviously can't do it the way they did it before.
Yeah, for sure.
And really, I don't even think you need to actually have you fight underwater per se. There's no reason they can't give it a pseudo feel of these aquatic monsters where there's either cutscenes and seeing them in their environment underwater, or maybe they're more of a quick time event where it's just you press certain buttons at a key time.
Mm-hmm.
So giving these monsters a chance to shine in their the other half of their natural environment. It's great that you have these water monsters, but you have them come on shore to fight them, and it's kind of like, I mean, it's cool that I get to fight them, but you're taking away, I'm sure, what is half of their moveset because I don't get to see them in that other half of their environment.
Yeah.
It's like taking an alligator out of the water. That's great, but part of how they survive and fight is in the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that I would love to see, and even if I don't see them in Rise, I still know Rise is going to be just
Such a good
so
game.
epic.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I think it's interesting that they chose to go with the Breath of the Wild style as far as exploration goes. That was like that never even occurred to me. I really thought they were going to mirror World and Execution even more.
Yeah.
I'm oh man, so stoked. I'm also stoked for the layered armor being introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I love being able to constantly change my appearance, and if they do it like World, that, oh my gosh, that's going to be perfect. Because every armor in World, I'm pretty sure, every armor in World plus some has a layered version. So, I mean, and there's armor that I love the look of, but obviously isn't practical to use.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that I can I can look like I want and still have the protection I need.
Yeah.
And and the other hope is, which I'm sure they'll do, is that they go with the World aspect of how armor can work, and mixing and matching your armor gear will be the way to go rather than forcing you to stick with a suit in general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that you can't use a full suit in World, and there are times where that's feasible to do, but mixing and matching your gear is arguably like the best part of World, is you can mix and match. You can create some awesome looking gear, like practical looking gear.
Yeah.
So like just those type of customizations have me so stoked.
Oh, for sure. And that's another thing about Rise that I'm just really excited about, is just like when I think about my experience with Gen Alt, like I'm over 470 hours in right now, and when I think about the time when I like created my character, it's like that's ages ago now. So to have that feeling again of like, wow, I'm starting a fresh character that is at the bottom of the barrel in terms of like rank and whatever else, just to have that experience and be like, wow, this is like totally a brand new thing, and we're starting from the bottom and we're just going up from there.
I love that
Yeah,
feeling.
that
I'm
is going to be
excited for that.
so good.
What are you going to do without your fighting arts? No more absolute evasion.
I'm sure Rise will have something that I can use.
World doesn't have arts,
Yeah, that's so strange.
but it doesn't need it because the combat is so much more fluid and open.
Hmm.
And with the I forget what it's actually called, but with the energy whip that you're going to use in Rise, like that's going to whip you about. Like that, I'm really excited to see what you're going to be able to do with that because that
Yeah.
looked stoked. So, is there any monster in particular that you two are hoping makes a return?
Oh my, I have not even thought about that. That's an amazing question. I think right off the bat for me, if I can get like Zamtrios, which is one of my all-time favorites, I would be set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure for myself.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen all of them, so like my opinion is very like limited compared to what you guys are exposed to. So yeah, I don't really have like one that I would say I
Yeah.
would love to see again or anything like that.
Yeah. I think like two other ones that I really love are Acantor and Ucanlos, which are just like the huge fire and ice lizards that are just like monstrous in size. Those ones are a blast. So yeah, just seeing some of those return would be really cool.
Nice.
What about you?
So, if I had to pick from Gen Alt, I'm always going to pick Mitsuzune, I think
Yep.
its name is,
Hmm.
just because, not because of anything more than its just look, and that's really it. I absolutely love the design
Hmm.
visually of that dragon. I love the colors. I love the design. I love just the feel of him. And it'd be kind of interesting to see him with a better 3D representation of his water attacks and the bubble. It would be kind of cool to see them how they do that in a more realistic term. But they can bring him back. I would be super happy. As far as world goes, oh man, I mean, it's like where do you begin with that? I don't. And of course, I'm probably going to end up picking one that probably is in Gentle, to be fair. But it's just not where I'm used to fighting it or knowing it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I would be Valkana wouldn't bother me at all. I don't know if Nergigante. I think he is. Nergigante's in Gentle, isn't he?
I don't recognize that name.
Oh, maybe not. Nergigante would be one that would just be awesome because he's at least in World he's introduced as like he's an Elder Dragon killer.
Oh, wild.
I mean, he gets. Don't get me wrong. He's not like the end. He's not a do all end all, but he is one of the final ones. And
Hmm.
there is and he's already an Elder Dragon. And then when Iceborne got introduced, they introduced a variant form of him that's even more savage. Like
Crazy.
he's really, really is kind of a badass, like aggressive monster. As much as he can irritate the crap out of me fighting him, he's still awesome enough that I would love to see him come back
Yeah.
and just take on a whole new world of different monsters. If not him, Xenojiva is a beautiful looking monster I would love to see come back. So yeah, those would be probably the ones I'd pick.
Yeah, solid. Well, time will tell.
Man. So moment of truth, do you see this? Do you see yourself putting in more time in Rise than you have with Gen total?
It really depends on how much total content there ends up being for the game. Because, like, yeah, I almost have 500 hours in Gen Alt, and I'm still not done everything. And, like, it's just, yeah. But at the same time, like, if Rise is just this whole new experience compared to Gen Alt, and it's blending elements of Gen Alt and World, then it might just be, yeah, like like Breath of the Wild was, where I was just absorbed and just pumped out hours like crazy. It's tricky to say though.
So what about you all? You see yourself doing Rise more than Gen Ult, or do you see Gen Ult kind of being?
Probably Rise, to be honest. One, because of the combat alone, because I find it's very clunky in Gen Alt, and yeah, it's just very like one thing I hope Rise is less confusing and just technical and all this other stuff you have to learn. Though it wouldn't bother me if it was like the same as Gen Ult. But yeah, I just see myself more like playing more Rise because it's just more my style, my type of game, whereas Gen Ult is not. I still love Gen Ult, but Rise just seems so much more fluid and in every way, shape, and form. Combat, the open world concept of it, just all of that. So yeah, I see myself just playing a lot more Rise.
Nice. What I'm stoked to see is if with the openness of the combat system that this is going to introduce, if you guys are going to. Now, I'm not dumb. I know what your starting weapon is going to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We know it's going to be dual blades all the way.
Well, it depends, but yeah.
I would like to see if you're going to do more exploration. I can see this being open enough that you'd be more willing to explore other weapons as a casual side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was what I was going to mention is like this is more or less a great fresh starting point to either do dual blades and other things or just right from the get-go just start doing something else entirely.
All right. So I can tell, right? I obviously Charge Blade is going to be my starting.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see myself probably balancing that with. I think I'm going to craft some dual blades, but I kind of been. I think this would be a fun time to try to get into maybe long swords or something, just something a little different than what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still looking to try to. I still got to do record my match with dual blades in World, but
yeah,
I'm going to use those fish.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. I just can't wait for like how elements are going to work in weapons, and I'm just so super stoked for everything that they're going to. Just trying to guess how they're going to do it all.
Yeah, and that's part of a huge part of why one of the main things I'm stoked about is just learning more or seeing the extent of the gear because like Gen Ult has ridiculous amounts of gear, and so if Rise is anything like that, where like you can upgrade your dual blades like 20 times, even though it's like maybe 8 or 9 maximum different levels, but still the idea is like you can just go down one branch or another and just be constantly like getting stronger and stronger weapons from the same base weapon that you started with, let alone anything else that you shift over to entirely, like just totally different weapons. It is just amazing to me.
Man, I'm just like, I can easily see that I'm going to be putting more time into Rise and Gen Ult, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not that I didn't enjoy Gen Ult. I really do enjoy Gen Ult because it's probably going to be arguably for me the best out of all the more traditional Monster Hunters.
For sure.
But I gravitate towards the feel of World more, and I can tell Rise is going to be right there.
Yep.
So I don't think I'm going to put as much time into Rise as I do World because I'm still not done with World, but I can definitely see Rise taking up a lot of my time.
Yep.
And I'm also super stoked with that because it's more my style. I would be more available for the more multiplayer stuff, which has got me stoked. Like just the prospect of playing with you, playing with Autumn, Haru, whoever, Danny if he gets it, and Erica, whoever. Like I just see this really being a way of playing with more people on Switch. I just, even if, regardless of whether it's recorded or not, I mean, it'd be cool to record it, but my only concern is like I really wish Nintendo would get a better chat option going.
Oh, totally. I agree with that.
But aside from that, man, like I'm so super stoked for like all the possibilities. And the other thing I'm kind of hoping they do is the same thing that they've done, especially on PlayStation, but even on Xbox, is that I hope they have continued to do their crossover events.
Mm-hmm.
And we see armors, whether it's layered or actual armors, based upon other franchises. Like I said, World's done The Witcher, Mega Man, Resident Evil, Assassin's Creed, and on PlayStation it's done Horizon Dawn, which is a phenomenal game. So to be able to look like these characters and have decorations from these characters, like your Palico, you can dress him up to look like a 3D pixelated Mega Man. And every time you take off to leave on a mission, it plays the boss battle music, like you're setting off to fight the boss. So it's just all these little cool things I'm hoping they continue to do. It'd be neat if the most obvious one would be a layered armor that makes you look like Link.
Yeah.
Or just something like that. I think it'd be really cool to continue to see those type of things.
For sure.
But I know you're like, no, screw that Nintendo stuff. Keep my Monster Hunter pure. But, but to be fair, like Assassin's Creed was just a look. They did Devil May Cry 2, and it was just a look. They did Street Fighter as well. Most of them were just looks. Witcher, they actually had a story for, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But actually, and Resident Evil, they didn't have a story. No, they did. I'm sorry. Resident Evil had a story too. Final Fantasy, you don't play as anybody from that, but there was a story for it because Behemoth was in the game.
Neat.
But I still haven't beaten him. But yeah. So I think we covered a good ground. Is there anything else either one of you want to add, or?
I mean, we could get into so much more, like. The fact that we haven't even mentioned the monster that they're talking about in the trailer.
Oh yeah, like the big, like.
Or what that purple energy even is.
Oh
or
my gosh.
Means, or the story that it could be involved.
Yeah,
like,
none of this.
So much we could get into.
None of this wrapping up the discussion nonsense. We're just getting started.
All right, let me put coffee on and.
Yeah.
No, man, that monster. Yeah, the monster with the purple glow of the tail. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see what monster that is.
And what the legend is behind it.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
Just what that means when you do come across it, or like, there's just so much that's mysterious about that.
Yeah, definitely.
I hear they're bringing back some other monsters. I think one was a spider monster who's in Genel. They're bringing that monster.
Oh, Nursilla.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So that'll be fun to definitely fight that. I just can't imagine. And I want a more variety of base starter monsters, not just this one or two starter monsters and you kick it into high gear. Like, I want options for starting that totally deviate the branches. Like, one starting thing has you branch like that, branch out like that, but one other one. But when you think about it all together, you just got all these different options. You can even start combining. Like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Capcom, if you're listening, get to it.
Yeah, seriously.
Start sending them this video.
I want 1,000 monsters in Rise, and not just like the little Macau they're called Macaus. But yeah, like things like that, or like the little pygmy deer or whatever's, like those don't even count.
No.
Like I want 1,000 monsters, like full on massive, like nasty whatever's.
No, I totally agree, man. But no, I think, I mean, unless you guys want to really get into all this.
I think we're good.
Oh, man. This was awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, it's same here.
Definitely.
So I guess we'll wrap it up. I'm Car Dreamer,
I'm Dace.
And I'm Autumn.
and this has been our Let's Discuss of Monster Hunter Rise and for Blademaster's Forge.
Bald Master's Forge.
uh, Danny's going to have a field day on this, I can tell. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.